Aging studies, most people begin losing around 3 to 8% of muscle mass per decade after age 30, and explosive power can drop even faster if it isn't trained. You feel it in small ways. First, weights feel heavier, recovery takes longer, and movement requires more intention. Eventually, a quiet question appears. What happens when the body you relied on starts letting you down? There's no point pretending you're still 25. You're not, but that doesn't mean you're finished becoming capable. Some men remain formidable long after their physical prime by relying less on what age takes away and more on what experience builds. Aging and physical decline. Aging changes the body in ways that are gradual but unavoidable. Muscle mass declines, explosive power fades, and recovery takes longer than it once did. These are not matters of mindset but of biology, and they affect everyone who lives long enough. The mistake, however, is assuming that reduced physical ability means reduced overall capability. Strength and speed may decrease, but judgment, awareness, and efficiency can grow in their place, changing how a person responds to the world rather than simply limiting them. Over time, the body becomes less about output and more about conservation, forcing a shift in how energy is used. What once relied on force begins to rely on precision, and what once depended on repetition begins to depend on understanding. This transition is not a loss of function, but a redistribution of it, shifting the terms of competition. The key shift that comes with experience is learning not to compete on terms that no longer serve you. If someone is faster, there is no reason to rely on reaction speed. If someone is stronger, there is no benefit in meeting them head-on. Instead, the experienced person changes the structure of the situation itself, removing the advantage from the opponent rather than trying to match it directly. Capability is no longer about force alone, but about shaping conditions so force becomes less relevant. This often means stepping outside the expected pattern of engagement entirely. Instead of resisting pressure, you redirect it, and instead of matching intensity, you alter the environment where intensity matters. In this way, competition becomes less about opposition and more about control of context. Lessons from the Siege of Vienna. History reflects this principle clearly. In 1529, as the Ottoman Empire advanced toward Vienna, the city was defended by Nicholas of Salm, a commander in his 70s weakened by illness. He could not match the invading force in strength or numbers, and open confrontation would have been a loss. Instead of attempting the impossible, he reorganized the city's defenses, reinforced weak points, and structured the battlefield so attackers were funneled into disadvantageous positions. He did not become stronger than the enemy. He made their strength less effective. Every decision was about positioning rather than power, and about endurance rather than aggression. The defense succeeded not because it matched force, but because it reshaped how force could be applied. Experience and pattern recognition. As the body ages, physical performance declines, but perception often becomes more refined. Experience changes how information is processed. Where a younger person may see separate movements, an experienced one may recognize patterns forming a sequence. This does not always create faster reaction, but it creates earlier understanding. And earlier understanding creates time to adjust, avoid, or disengage before a situation fully develops. Over years of exposure, the mind begins to filter noise more efficiently, focusing only on meaningful signals. This reduction in cognitive clutter allows for clearer interpretation of complex situations, even if physical response speed is reduced. Prediction over reaction. This is where prediction becomes more valuable than reaction. Waiting for an event to fully unfold forces reliance on speed, which naturally declines with age. But recognizing early signals, changes in posture, distance, tension, or attention, allows action to happen before the peak moment arrives. Experience does not guarantee perfect foresight, but it reduces dependence on reflex and increases the ability to act before action is obvious. In many cases, the advantage lies not in responding correctly, but in not needing to respond at all. By the time a situation becomes urgent, the experienced individual has often already adjusted their position or avoided escalation entirely. Hélio, Gracie, and the question of strength. A similar truth appears in the development of Hélio Gracie, who began from a position of physical weakness. Traditional strength-based training was difficult for him, so he questioned whether effectiveness had to depend on force at all. This led him to explore leverage, positioning, and mechanical advantage, eventually shaping the foundations of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. His approach was not to compete with stronger bodies directly, but to build a system where structure mattered more than raw power. Over time, this philosophy demonstrated that technique could extend capability far beyond natural physical limits. It reframed combat as a problem of efficiency rather than dominance. Kimura versus Gracie and the limits of technique. This was tested in 1951 when Hélio Gracie faced Masahiko Kimura, a far larger and stronger judoka. The physical difference was undeniable, and Gracie ultimately lost the match. But the lesson was not about victory through technique alone. It was about how efficiency can extend functionality even against overwhelming strength. Technique does not break physical law, it works within it, using it more intelligently rather than resisting it directly. The encounter highlighted both the power and the limits of technical systems when faced with extreme disparities in force. It reinforced the ID physics of movement and efficiency. At its core, all movement is governed by the same principles regardless of age. A lever does not change with time, and balance does not favor youth over experience. When the body is aligned, force transfers efficiently. When it is not, even great strength becomes ineffective. This is why small changes in position or angle can matter more than raw effort. Experience teaches a person to work with these principles instead of against them, reducing wasted energy and increasing control. Over time, efficiency becomes a form of strength in itself, allowing less effort to produce more consistent results. The body may weaken, but understanding of mechanics deepens. This understanding often comes from repetition, correction, and the quiet accumulation of awareness over years. Even simple actions like standing, turning, or stepping begin to carry refined precision. What once required effort becomes almost automatic, guided by internalized structure rather than conscious force. Musashi and the primacy of timing. Miyamoto. Musashi understood this long before modern terminology existed. His writings emphasize that conflict is often decided before contact ever occurs. Timing, distance, positioning, and awareness shape outcomes long in advance of visible action. Reaction is simply responding after something happens, but timing is understanding when something is about to happen. This distinction allows an experienced person to remain functional under pressure, not by eliminating fear or stress, but by acting with clarity while they are present. Musashi's philosophy suggests that mastery is not speed, but anticipation refined through observation and repetition. In this way, awareness becomes a kind of quiet prediction, built from countless small observations. The practitioner learns to read intention in movement before it fully manifests. Over time, this creates a sense of control that feels almost effortless, even in chaotic situations. Redefining capability with age strength still matters, and it should be maintained whenever possible, but it is not the full measure of capability. Aging reduces speed and power, but it does not remove awareness, judgment, or adaptability. The real goal is not to remain young, but to remain effective. That means knowing when to engage, when to avoid, and when to leave entirely. Capability shifts from physical dominance to intelligent decision-making, where survival and control depend less on force and more on understanding. In this sense, aging does not diminish value. It simply changes the form in which value is expressed. Experience begins to outweigh impulse, and patience becomes a strategic advantage. Even restraint becomes a tool, allowing energy to be preserved for moments that truly matter. Aging and adaptation. Aging does not end capability. It reshapes it. What is lost in speed and strength can be balanced by awareness, timing, and experience. The body changes, but the principles of movement, physics, and decision-making remain the same. Those who adapt do not try to fight time. They learn to work with what time gives them. In doing so, they discover that effectiveness is not tied to youth, but to understanding how to use whatever remains with maximum clarity and minimum waste.